Remove your skin, remove your sin, remove the life you sold to them. I found that lyrical little ditty scrawled inside a dusty old tome hidden in a secret passageway in my father's basement. Reading those words confirmed all my suspicions. The man who raised me was a black magician, and he'd fucked around and let something unspeakable loose upon the narrow little streets of our suburban community. Let me back up a second here. You may or may not remember reading about Pastor Noah Winters. 3 years ago on Christmas, Winters fell through the floorboards of his pulpit while delivering his annual Yuletide soliloquy for the congregation at St. Mary's. Built sometime in the 20s, St. Mary's had seen better days, and the pastor's penchant for pacing while he preached had worn the floor to little more than a hard film that, on this particular day, finally gave out. Hidden below was what the media dubbed a Satan dungeon. That's right, living, breathing proof of a satanic cult that had operated right here in suburban America, sometime in the mid to late 70s. The modern world had all dismissed the 80s and its satanic panic long ago, but maybe there was some fire that came with that smoke, at least here in Woodlands Hills. Think about it. I mean, a popular Lutheran church attended by hundreds of people a week had a satanic altar underneath it. What's more, there were some pretty racy accoutrements found down there, too. Not the least of these was what turned out to be the oldest grimoire known to man. Pastor Winters suffered a broken leg. The synod, kind of the archdiocese for Lutherans, approved an emergency renovation of the church, and the book, rumored to be bound in human flesh, went up for auction at the Sotheby's where my father worked. Understand, Dad is an ex-hippie. My sister Sammy and I knew all about his acid days. Still, based on stuff I overheard as a kid, I definitely harbored the suspicion he'd spent some time running in pretty dark circles in the 70s. He'd lived on the West Coast for most of his early life, then relocated to the Midwest in his late 20s. From what I gathered, he and some buddies fled NorCal pretty quickly after getting into trouble messing around in some kind of cult. Yeah, my family's pretty fucked up, right? Anyway, I remember a neighbor telling him the gossip about St. Mary's and the book. I remember it because there was something in his eyes. Something I'd never seen before. The sale took place in October of last year. A month later, Dad lost his job when the auction winner had his purchase appraised and found the genuine article excavated from the cave beneath St. Mary's had been replaced with a crafty facsimile. I knew right away who had that book. By this time, I was in college, usually home 1 or 2 weekends a month. My sister was a senior in high school, super smart, and poised to study in the UK after graduation. When I returned for Christmas break, we headed out to a friend's house for drinks. She told me how, about a week before my arrival, she started seeing a lot of greasy-looking dudes around the house, all of whom Dad introduced as old friends. Our mom had been out of the picture for years, and Sammy often came home and found all these cars in the driveway but no one inside. She was an A student and, apart from the occasional margarita, not a troublemaker at all. Me, though. I knew every hiding place in the house from back when I used to sell drugs to friends, so I knew exactly where all those people parking in our driveway were going. See, there's an old laundry room in the basement. We hadn't used it in years after Dad put a brand new washer/dryer in the mudroom around my 6th birthday. Part of that room's back wall opened into a small closet, barely more than a nook with a couple of shelves. You know, a place for your detergent, dryer sheets and whatnot. As a teenager looking for a place to hide shit, I'd learned the wall of that closet swung inward. Behind it? Stairs leading down. Yeah, it sounds mad, right? Totally true, though. You go down the stairs, and there's this, tunnel. It leads east to the edge of our property, dead ends in a stone doorway that, while I could never get open, a friend and I figured out must open into this big hill in the field behind our neighborhood. The field beyond which stands, you guessed it, St. Mary's. So what do we have so far? A weird snippet of gothy poetry, evidence of a local satanic cult, and a book of spells stolen by my father and his occultist friends. Christmas rolled around, and the weirdest thing happened. Mom came home. Yeah, it was like, surreal. She literally drove up, parked in her old spot and opened the front door with keys she hadn't used in nearly 10 years. Sammy and I were stunned. I mean, what do you say to the woman who walked out on you? We hadn't heard a peep since she'd left, and then there she was, sitting at the kitchen table with a can of beer and a perpetually burning Pall Mall. It was a lot, and Sammy had a meltdown. I followed her to her boyfriend Cole's house to make sure she was okay. She wasn't, and then I went back, thinking I'd have it out with Mom. Only when I got back, there was no sign of her or Dad. Her half-drunk Molson sat on the table, and the butt from her cigarette lay smoldering in the shapeless ceramic ashtray Sammy had made her for Christmas in first grade. Dad never had the heart to throw the thing away, like all Mom's other shit. She was still here, and so was Dad. I took the stairs into the basement as quietly as I could. The old tube TV against the far wall was filled with analog snow, and I could hear Black Sabbath's The Warning playing somewhere far off. I rounded the only corner and saw the laundry room door open a crack, neon blue light spilling out onto the chipped tile floor. I opened the door and saw the hidden passage in the wall yawned wide. The music grew louder. I could hear Tony Iommi's phrasing on the final passage of the song. My brain latched onto it, the only familiar thing in an altogether alien evening. I crossed the threshold into the tunnel, where thick particles from the past floated in the neon darkness. I inched across the world beneath our backyard until I came to that door I couldn't open as a kid. It was open. I knew the moment I crossed the threshold that I was in the Satan altar below the church. This meant that A, the synod's renovation hadn't touched this underground chamber below St. Mary's, and B, my parents had to have been involved in making or at least using the original altar, which stood before me like the horn of a giant goat. No sign of my parents or anyone else, but 10 feet in front of me, the grimoire lay open on the altar, the crawling blue neon light beaming up from its open pages, coating the walls and ceiling. Across the room, draped atop a pile of jagged 2x4s and shattered stone, I found what looked like skin shed by a couple of giant snakes. One of them had a mustache. Mom and Dad were back together, and whatever they'd started back before we were born seemed to be in motion again.